Okay, we're the behavior panel, and if you don't know who we are, I'm Scott Rouse. I'm a body language expert and analyst. I've trained military and law enforcement in interrogation and body language. I've created the #1 online body language course, bodylanguagetactics.com, with Mr. Greg Hartley. Mark?
Right, I'm Mark Bowden. I'm an expert in human behavior and body language. I've helped people all over the world to stand out, win trust, gain credibility every time they communicate, including some of the leaders of the G7. Choice.
Hey, I'm Chase Hughes. I did 20 plus years in the military, wrote the #1 best-selling book on behavior profiling, influence, and persuasion. You can learn all about that today. Just type in my name into your app store. Greg?
Greg Hartley, former Army interrogator, interrogation instructor, resistance to interrogation instructor. I've written 10 books on body language and behavior, put together the #1 body language tactics course with Scott Rouse, and I spend most of my time in corporate America.
All right, Mark, what do we got? What are we watching today?
Right, today we're going to be doing an analysis on an old taped interview from a Mr. Phineas Gage. Now, Greg, what would you like to tell us about this video we're about to watch?
Well, for those of you who don't know, Phineas Gage is an American legend. He was a railroad construction foreman in the mid-1800s, remembered for his improbable survival of an accident in which a large tampering iron was driven completely through his skull, destroying much of his brain, and he was still able to not only live a remarkable remaining 12 years of his life, but show incredible cognitive function throughout. And the interviewer here is asking him questions about that 10 years after the incident, and that's all you need to know about what we're about to watch.
Sounds great. All right, are we ready, boys? Should I get
I'm
us started?
ready.
Get us started, Scott.
Start it up, Scott!
Here we go.
Mr. Phineas Gage, you have survived 10 years with a gigantic hole in your head and half your brain missing. How would you say you've done that so far in your own words?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I found that when I approached this physically, from physical lesson, the less progress I made. It was only when I began to focus from the basis of the spirit, of calling myself the spiritual being, that I began to have amazing capabilities.
All right, that looks like a good enough place to stop it. Greg, what do you got so far?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for us to look at baseline. We always say baseline matters, and baseline in an interview is better than baseline out of an interview, because you can see what's normal for that person under whatever level of distress that was. His cadence is pretty fluent. I think he was going to praise himself there, and had to stop himself and rethink that, and redirect it to a different way of saying it, blaming the spirit. And we see his brow rise a lot, his eyebrows, and we've seen him in the past videos with grief, and his grief muscle is an arch, with a couple of small lines. Here we're seeing all straight lines across, and he's doing a request for approval. Request for approval means, I am asking you to believe me, and then he squints a little at you to make sure you're following. I think Phineas might even be a little amused here, as you see his eyes in the lower half of his face as he says the word spirit. He is trying to get attention for what he is saying, and trying to make sure you understand. And then he uses his mouth, and he withdraws his lips an awful lot. It's just the way he expresses. I've seen many pictures of him, and he does exactly that. When he's required to think about something, you see his eyes go out of focus. He's not making eye contact with anyone. I mean, this is his baseline form of deception that we're going to use. So we expect to see that a lot as we go on to the next piece. Scott, what do you got?
Very good, Greg, very good. All right, yeah, he seems very relaxed. He's wearing very dapper clothes. They're a little bit big for him. I've seen pictures where he's wearing more rough clothes that make him look a little more rugged. Not saying he doesn't look rugged right now, but the clothing style is different. Body language is smooth, not jerking. He's not stiff, for the most part. Everything seems to be moving, not looping, but close, because he's talked about this before, and when he's asked the question, you can see him searching. His eyes dart back and forth. He's prepared for this. He's gotten ready for this. He delivers it fairly smooth, but when he answers, he's looking right down the barrel of the interviewer. That's who he's playing to. That's who he's acting to. And you're right, Greg. When he talks about the spirit, his eyebrows go up. It's almost like he's living vicariously through the interviewer seeing him. Now, I know that sounds weird, but he speaks in the third person because I think he knows how the interviewer is going to be looking at him at that point and seeing him. That's called Duper's delight. All right, Mark, what do you got?
Right, it's really gonna start falling to bits here. It's tricky to watch this one because it really descends quite quickly. Starts off with, that's a very interesting question. Not very forceful. He believes it was the spirit. I think he says it was the spirit that gave him unlimited capabilities. Apparently, the spirit gave him that. He doesn't really need to tell us any of that. I mean, he's worried it'll be quite disturbing to us because to an observer, what you see there is only the physical, the hole in his head. He wants to distract us from that physical by invoking the word and replacing it with spirit. Apparently, the spirit is more powerful than the hole in his head. And even so, to an overseer like myself, I mean, you have a hole in your head, mate. That ripped out all your brain. And to an observer like myself, I don't think you get more capabilities when that happens, man. I mean, I know it's a spirit. That's what he's doing. That's what he told us, that it's the spirit. He's not focusing on the physical. That didn't work for him. I mean, you have a hole in your head, mate. I'll probably try to distract people from that too. Because, you know, I can imagine what that's like, having a hole in your head. So, okay, I'll got no judgment from that. It would be easier to admit that you have a hole in your head and you've been severely affected by that. That's what comes across here. Deception. His spirit has given him more capabilities than before. Something completely different. I don't know about that. One of those classic lines invoking the queen of high-value revelation. Man is a spirit. Man is a spirit. But if the spirit is working so well, mate, why is it so hard for you to talk right now? Shouldn't the unlimited capability fix that? So, well, all of that felt a little bit arch to me. He knew he was going to go for that story. I don't think that came in the moment for him. Chase!
Well, here's a quick tip. When somebody is telling you a story, process it through this lens. What is being concealed in that story? And in this instance, every flaw, the physical, which encompasses every possible hint at the hole in his head, is absent here. He's giving us a story of a flawless Disney prince. And just for reference, the tampering iron, what he's holding, is 43 inches long. It's 1.5 inches in diameter and weighs about 14 pounds. That shot skyward through his left cheek, ripped into his brain, and exited through his skull. Landed several feet away, took a lot of his brain with him, so this is some pretty grotesque stuff. So there's this large hole in his head in uncertain language at the end of his statement. This is the beginning of our discovery of his stress and deception baseline. This is a big spike in what we're really looking for as interrogators and behavior profilers. We're in a different category now. We're not projecting anymore. This is another technique that we call rationalizing. And you see here in this video, right in the moment when he says progress, you see his eyebrows go up. At the perfect time, when he says progress, we see disgust on the face. When he says progress, intro postural retreat, which means he's leaning away. He's trying to get away from that topic. And I just want to make this very, very clear. We are not calling Phineas Gage a liar here. We are saying he's being extremely deceptive, and this is very rehearsed. And I'm sure he's a man of legacy, you know. He wants to explain himself. He's a socially driven creature. He cares about his reputation with his fans and his family more than anything else. So I think he's trying to humanize himself here with the spirit story when he's being deceptive about that. All right, should we keep going? Is there anything else?
I'm ready.
Let's go!
I'm ready, boys.
All right, here we go.